One of the reasons I got into this is I had a conversation with a friend of mine who recommended a book to me, Ego is the Enemy. And, I came out of it as oh, ego is this adversary, and my job is to minimize it and to get it as out of my life as possible. And the friend who recommended it to me came back to me and said, ego is something that will always be there. And instead of viewing it as something adversarial that you try to avoid or exclude out, think of it as a tool and learn how to leverage it to help you in times of need. If ego is a source of motivation, find ways to motivate yourself to achieve the things you want to and use your ego to want to do that. And so it made me think about other things that people often fear. And one of the big ones that people fear is debt. And debt, that this fear makes sense. As you take on debt, particularly things like credit card debt or buying expensive houses or cars, and you finance things with debt, that debt can have a very large negative impact on your life. But debt is fundamentally just cash now for cash later. It's just an exchange. You're getting the option of using cash now and giving it up later. And it can be extremely effective when you find ways to utilize that cash that generate returns in excess or potentially in excess of the cash flows later. And so when you think about debt and in your life, you should really think about, when I take debt out, when I receive this cash, what am I going to do with it? If you're going to use it to invest in a home or in an experience for yourself, you're giving up experiences or things that you can acquire later for that. So make sure that anything you're financing with debt is bringing a lot of value now that you can't get later. So for example, if you're young, if you want to go travel extensively, debt is not necessarily a bad tool. It can provide opportunities to you now in exchange for times when you might have excess funds later. Or if you find assets or investments that generate high returns, debt can be a useful tool so that you can scale faster and grow quicker. The key, though, is having a good mathematical and finance understanding of how debt works. And when you achieve that level of mastery of that topic, the tools that you'll have in your tool belt will give you a lot more opportunities to be successful. I was reading a book, Math for Human Flourishing, and they talked about chess, and you can't beat someone better than you if you don't know all the same tools that they have. And once you've acquired a tool in the toolbox, you incrementally improve, essentially permanently. And mastering the concept of debt really enables you and gives you a power that you can carry with you for your entire career. And kind of just fundamentally, to finish that thought, that's often how I view things we fear. We fear because we don't have a lack of knowledge. And when we do find that deeper sense of knowledge about things, we can figure out how to use them. Even, they talk about it in the 48 Laws of Power, of understanding your enemy. Because your enemy is a tool that, just as much as they are your enemy, right? They have skill sets that maybe you don't have. They have resources that you don't. Figuring out how to use things that even seem, stacked against you or intended to compete with you can give you strategies and tools to be successful.